The moment Mark floated the idea of an open marriage over our homemade spaghetti dinner, my fork nearly dropped. "It could be good for us, rejuvenate our love," he said, eyes avoiding mine. I laughed, thinking it was a joke, but it wasn't. My heart sank as I muttered a reluctant, "Okay," hoping deep down this was just a weird phase. The next day, curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself scrolling through a dating app, only to stumble upon Mark's profile. It was like a slap in the face, his smiling photo staring back at me, his bio screaming for adventure with anyone but me. Betrayed, yet silent, I plotted my next move in the solitude of our bedroom. A week of silent treatments and awkward mornings later, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan, a guy the first matched with on the app out of a mix of spite and curiosity. "Coffee tomorrow?" it read. Why not, I thought. Might as well dive headfirst into this open thing. Ethan and I met at a cozy cafe downtown, and it turned out he was in the same boat, open marriage, feeling neglected, looking for something more. We clicked instantly, and before I knew it, we were back at his place, entangled in sheets, embracing this new reality we'd found ourselves in. Returning home the next morning, I was met with an eerie silence. Mark's stuff? Gone. A note on the counter casually mentioned he'd be away, exploring, for a while, no return date, no contact info. Just like that, as if our life together was nothing but a brief stopover. I tried calling, messaging, reaching out to friends, but it was as if Mark had vanished into thin air. Haven't heard from him, they'd say, their voices a mix of concern and confusion. Abandoned and angry, I found solace in Ethan's company, our shared sense of desertion drawing us closer. 2 weeks turned into a month, and not a word from Mark. Ethan and I, finding comfort in each other's company, gradually built a connection that seemed to fill the void left by our absent spouses. Yet, beneath it all, the questions remained. Where had Mark gone, and why had he left without a trace? In a desperate bid for clarity and closure, I found myself dialing the number of a private investigator. "I need to know where he is," I confessed, the words tasting like defeat. Handing over a photo of Mark, I couldn't shake the fear of what I might uncover. It felt like stepping off a cliff, not knowing where the bottom was. The investigator's call came 2 days later, a bombshell that shattered any remnants of hope I had clung to. "He's cleaned out your joint account," the voice on the line informed me, the words cold and clinical. Betrayal seeped into my bones, leaving me financially crippled and emotionally wrecked. How could the man I married, the man I trusted, do this to me? Ethan, sensing my despair, suggested a plan that felt like grasping at straws in a whirlwind of chaos. "Let's expose him," he said, his voice a mix of anger and determination. "Show his family, his friends, what he's really like." There was a dark allure to the idea, a chance to strike back, to make Mark feel a fraction of the pain he'd inflicted on me. Armed with passwords remembered from over-the-shoulder glances and guesswork, I breached Mark's digital world. The evidence was damning: messages, photos, arrangements with women whose names twisted my gut with jealousy. With each discovery, my resolve hardened. Mark had turned our life into a lie, and it was time the truth came out. Ethan stood by me as we compiled the evidence, crafting emails that felt like grenades waiting to be thrown. Hitting send unleashed a storm I barely understood, a whirlwind of emotions, but among them, a fleeting sense of vindication. I imagined Mark's shock, his world upended as mine had been, and for a moment, I savored the thought. The retaliation was swift and sharp, a cease and desist letter arriving with the morning mail. "You're harassing Mark," the lawyer's letter accused, the words black and foreboding on white paper. Harassing him? The irony was a bitter pill, a mockery of the pain and havoc he'd wrought in my life. But as I poured my energy into this vendetta against Mark, cracks began to show in my world. Friends, once sympathetic, now eyed me with wariness and disappointment. "You're going too far," they cautioned, their words heavy with unspoken judgments. It was isolating, realizing that my quest for justice was painting me as the villain in the eyes of those I cared about. Undeterred by the legal threats, I pressed on, fueled by a mix of rage and desperation. Yet, in my quieter moments, I wondered if this path of revenge was leading me further away from the healing I so desperately sought. With each action against Mark, the distance between my old self and who I'd become grew wider, a chasm filled with anger and sorrow. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more twisted, Ethan began pulling away, his discomfort with my vendetta against Mark becoming a chasm between us. "This isn't what I signed up for," he admitted one evening, his words slicing through the air like cold blades. "Another betrayal, another person walking out of my life when I needed them the most." The sting of Ethan's departure was soon overshadowed by news from the private investigator. Mark was living it up in a luxury condo in some fancy part of a city miles away, his life apparently untouched by the chaos he'd left behind. The injustice of it all, the sheer unfairness, lit a fire in me that I couldn't suppress. If he thought he could just start over, leaving me to pick up the pieces, he was sorely mistaken. Fueled by a mix of rage and desperation, I concocted a plan to confront him publicly. There was a conference he was attending, a perfect opportunity to expose him for who he really was. I booked a ticket to the city, my mind racing with what I would say, how I would reveal his true character to everyone. The day of the conference was a blur. My heart pounded as I spotted him, the familiar figure weaving through the crowd, oozing confidence. I approached, my voice louder than I'd intended, accusations flying. But Mark, ever the charmer, remained cool, detached, as if I were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. It wasn't long before security was escorting me out, my efforts to humiliate him only serving to deepen my own disgrace. Not content with simply dismissing me, Mark struck back with a legal blow, a restraining order, alleging that my behavior at the conference was just the tip of the iceberg. The document, with its formal accusations in cold legalese, was a slap in the face, a reminder of how far I'd fallen in my quest for justice. In a fit of impotent rage, I did something stupid. Mark's car, parked so carelessly outside his luxury condo, became the target of my frustration. The security camera footage was indisputable, my actions caught in high definition. Arrested for vandalism, my situation went from bad to worse. The aftermath was a nightmare. My lawyer, working miracles, managed to get the charges reduced to community service, but the damage was done. The arrest, the legal fees, they all but wiped out what little I had left. Financially ruined, emotionally spent, I was a shadow of the woman I once was, my life a testament to the destructive power of revenge. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. Mark's family came knocking, their words like daggers. "You've destroyed everything," they accused, blind to the fact that it was Mark's idea that started this whole mess. Standing in my once shared, now lonely living room, I felt the weight of their blame crushing me, a reminder of how far I'd fallen. Then, the job I clung to as my last piece of normalcy slipped through my fingers. "We can't have this kind of publicity," my boss said, regret in his eyes but firmness in his voice. There I was, career in shambles, reputation tarnished beyond recognition. The spiral seemed endless. Ethan's departure was the final blow. "I need to fix my own life," he said, his words final, leaving no room for argument. It felt like being abandoned all over again, only this time, I saw it coming and was powerless to stop it. The sting of his betrayal was a bitter pill to swallow, leaving me to question the very foundation of our connection. Social media, once a harmless escape, became a window into a life I was no longer part of. Pictures of Mark, smiling and seemingly at peace with a woman whose face I recognized from those haunting messages, twisted the knife further. He had moved on, while I was stuck in the debris of our collapsed life. Job hunting turned into a nightmare. Each interview felt like walking through a minefield, my tarnished reputation a shadow I couldn't shake off. "We'll be in touch," they'd say, but the silence that followed spoke volumes. The city that once felt like a realm of endless possibilities now seemed like a prison. With no job, no support, and no reason to stay, I made the decision to leave. Packing my life into boxes felt like closing chapters of a book I never wanted to read again. Selling what little I had, I prepared for a fresh start, somewhere new, somewhere where my past couldn't reach me. The decision to move wasn't easy, but it was necessary. As I looked around my nearly empty apartment, I realized this was it. The end of my life here and the start of something new. Maybe somewhere else, I could find a piece of the peace that had eluded me for so long. On the morning I was set to leave everything behind, my phone pinged with a message that made my heart skip, a message from Mark. "I'm sorry for everything," it read, but the words felt empty, void of true remorse. It was too little, too late. His apology didn't bring closure, it only reignited my anger, reminding me of all the reasons I needed to start anew. Determined to turn my pain into something productive, I started a blog from my small, new apartment in a town where no one knew my name. It was my attempt to make sense of the chaos, to warn others about the pitfalls of open marriages and the deceit I'd endured. To my surprise, people began to follow my journey, sharing their own stories of betrayal and heartache. It felt like creating a community out of shared scars. But with visibility came vulnerability. Mark's defenders were quick to find my blog, branding me as bitter and vindictive. The comments were cruel, personal attacks that seemed aimed to break my spirit. It was a stark reminder that even in my new life, the shadow of my old one loomed large. Despite the onslaught of negativity, I pressed on, sharing my story with anyone who would listen. There was a cathartic power in opening up, in possibly helping someone else avoid the same fate. Yet, each post took a toll, leaving me drained and questioning if my quest for healing was just opening old wounds. Then, the legal notice arrived, a cold, formal threat to silence me. Mark was suing for defamation, demanding I take down my blog or face him in court. The irony wasn't lost on me, Mark, who had turned my life upside down, now claiming victimhood. Faced with the prospect of legal battles I couldn't afford, I had no choice but to comply. Taking down each post felt like erasing pieces of my journey, my voice muted by the man who had caused so much pain. It was a bitter pill to swallow, realizing that in trying to reclaim my life, I'd somehow lost even more ground. The day I removed the last blog post, I sat in the quiet of my apartment, the silence echoing the emptiness I felt inside. Mark had managed to take one more thing from me, leaving me to wonder if I'd ever truly be free from the shadow of our shared past. The day I stepped into the small town that was to become my new home, it felt like walking onto a stage without knowing the script. The local diner offered me a job, and I found a modest apartment that was a shadow of my previous life. This was my chance at a fresh start, a place where the echoes of my past couldn't reach me, or so I hoped. Here, I became a shadow of myself, serving coffee and pie with a smile that never quite reached my eyes. I built walls around me, too scared to let anyone in. The fear of being judged, of having to explain the scars that weren't visible, kept me from forming any new connections. It was safer that way, or at least that's what I told myself. Then, one day, a text from a former mutual friend shattered the fragile peace I'd found. "Mark's going to be a dad," it read. Just like that, my past crashed into my present, leaving me gasping for air. The pain of what I'd lost, what Mark had taken from me, felt as fresh as ever. It was a reminder of a life that could have been, now forever out of reach. In the wake of that news, the diner became more than just a job, it was my refuge. I lost myself in the routine, each order a distraction from the turmoil inside. Little by little, I started saving, each penny in the jar by my bed a symbol of hope for something better, a future where the past didn't define me. But the past has a way of catching up. One evening, a customer looked at me a second too long, recognition dawning in his eyes. "Aren't you the woman from?" he began, but I didn't let him finish. My heart sank. The fear of being exposed, of that new beginning slipping through my fingers, was paralyzing. Yet, in that moment of vulnerability, something unexpected happened. The regulars at the diner, the ones I'd served day in and day out, rallied around me. Their kindness, free from judgment or curiosity about my past, offered a glimpse of the community I'd been too afraid to seek out. They showed me that perhaps, starting over wasn't as impossible as I'd feared. Then came the letter from Ethan, its arrival unexpected and its contents even more so. "I'm sorry," he wrote, "for everything." His words forced me to confront a tangle of feelings I'd pushed aside, forgiveness, resentment, and the painful acknowledgement of the role his encouragement had played in my downfall. It was a reminder of the complexity of human emotions, of the capacity for growth and change, even in those we might have given up on. In this small town, working at the diner, surrounded by people who knew nothing of my past yet offered unconditional support, I found the strength to face each day. And with Ethan's letter, I began to understand that forgiveness, whether given or received, was a crucial step on the path to healing. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could find peace amidst the ruins of my life. Finding purpose in a world that once seemed void of it, I started volunteering at the local shelter. There, amidst the stories of loss and resilience, I found my own strength. teaching others to rebuild their lives, I discovered a solace I hadn't known I was searching for. It was as if every piece of advice I gave, every shoulder I offered, helped patch the cracks in my own foundation. With a newfound determination, I scrimped and saved, every tick from the diner pushing me closer to a goal that once seemed unattainable. Enrolling in a night class was my leap towards the future I could shape. The thought of starting a new career, of turning the page on a chapter that had been written by someone else's choices, filled me with a cautious optimism. When a local newspaper featured my volunteer work, highlighting the small steps I'd taken towards personal recovery and helping others, the response was overwhelming. Encouragement and praise from the community bolstered my confidence, a stark contrast to the isolation I'd felt for so long. It was a public acknowledgement that I was moving forward, that my past didn't define me. That same resilience and community support led to a job opportunity in a field I'd always been interested in but never had the courage to pursue. As I prepared for this new role, the excitement was tempered with fear. Yet, the possibility of a fresh start, of building a life on my own terms, outweighed the trepidation. The day Mark reached out again, suggesting we meet to talk, felt like a test of my resolve. Staring at his message, I realized I no longer sought his validation or needed closure from him. Deleting it, I chose instead to focus on the path I was carving out for myself. It was a declaration of my independence from the pain and betrayal that had once consumed me. In the stability of my new job and through the fulfillment of my volunteer work, I began to forgive myself. The guilt and shame that had once shackled me to my past started to dissolve, replaced by a sense of peace with the choices I'd made in the wake of Mark's betrayal. A year after my move, I had saved enough to upgrade to a better apartment. It was more than just a change of scenery, it was a testament to my resilience, a sign of progress and independence. The space was mine alone, a sanctuary built from the ground up with my own perseverance and strength. With this new beginning, I launched a blog centered on personal growth and recovery. Avoiding the pitfalls of my past public endeavors, I focused on the lessons learned in the journey ahead. The blog became a platform for connection, for sharing the universal struggles of moving past betrayal and finding strength in vulnerability. The messages of gratitude and shared stories of resilience from my readers underscored the importance of community, of not going through our darkest moments alone. Each comment, each shared experience, reinforced the idea that while our journeys are unique, the emotions that drive us are universally understood. On the anniversary of my move, I took a moment to reflect on the tumultuous path that had led me to where I was. The losses were undeniable, the scars evident, but so too was the strength I garnered from each setback, each challenge. The realization that I might never fully heal from the betrayal was no longer a source of despair but a badge of my enduring resilience. I, 29, female, got engaged to my boyfriend, Peter, 30, early this year, and our wedding is scheduled for next year. Peter has a sister, Olivia, who's a teen and was recently diagnosed with leukemia. She's receiving chemotherapy, and as far as I know, it's not terminal. One of Olivia's dreams in life is to get married. Ever since I've known her, she talked about her future wedding and has planned every last detail. Since she got diagnosed, she's become apprehensive that she won't be able to have her own dream wedding because she might pass before that happens. Based on what I know about her diagnosis, she'll likely survive and go on to live a full life. Still, it's a definite possibility she could die. Peter and I are currently in the wedding planning stage, and this is also where we might be the idiots. Peter's parents approached us a few days ago and asked if we would be willing to dedicate some of our wedding time to Olivia since she might not get one of her own. According to them, Olivia wants to wear a wedding dress, invite many of her friends, have a say in the food and cake decorations, and have a first dance with her boyfriend. They said it's better to do all this at my and Peter's wedding because then the family can celebrate together. Peter and I were shocked they would ask this since we thought our wedding would be about us. I know Olivia is struggling and I feel completely awful for her since no teenager should have their youth ruined by cancer. Still, I don't see why we can't have a separate party for Olivia instead of dedicating half of our day to her, especially since she'd likely get most of the attention due to her condition. Additionally, it would cost a lot more money to have to pay for Olivia's friends to attend the wedding. Peter's parents only offered to pay for 75% of the additional cost, and Peter and I aren't made of money. Peter and I told Peter's parents that we would think about it. Still, after discussing it, We decided it would be better to say no because we prefer to have our day be about us. Still, we'd be more than willing to pitch in funds and help plan a separate party for Olivia, but when we informed Peter's parents, they were furious. They said they couldn't believe we were prioritizing ourselves over a child with cancer and that we were being selfish. They said this might be Olivia's only chance for a wedding, and how dare we deny her dying wish? I said I didn't understand why we couldn't have a separate party, but Peter's parents said they wanted it to feel authentic for Olivia, so it would be better to do it at an actual wedding. When they started raising their voices, Peter and I left, but since then, Peter's family's been spamming us with messages about how terrible we're being to Olivia and how they can't believe we're not being considerate of her wishes. Are we being unreasonable here? I might be the idiot because I don't want to dedicate half my wedding time to my fiancé's sister. Not the idiot. Honestly, I find the whole thing repulsive. A fake wedding for a maybe dying child is maudlin and in very poor taste. Wearing a wedding dress is not a wedding. Cutting a cake is not a wedding. Having a first dance is not a wedding. A wedding is a sacred commitment, including God or not, between two people who want to spend their lives together. This is nothing but a farce. Tell her the truth. She will live. She will be fine. She'll go out with a million frogs before she ever finds her prince, and when she's ready, she'll have her wedding. Jesus, when the kid does get married, can OP get half of sister-in-law's wedding to get their kids baptized or renewal of their vows? Like, what the heck? Although I can't imagine any combination of events that would freak me out as much as this. As a guest, I would be horrified. OMG, I didn't even think what it would be like for the guest. I would be so weirded out and felt like I was being held hostage at a weird wedding LARP. And what about the boyfriend? Can you imagine if and when this teen relationship breaks down? Will they demand you can't break up because they are married? God forbid. The next step is, I want to be a mommy before I die. Yeah, what's the next request they'll make of OP? You need to have a baby for Olivia because she won't get to have her own kids? This has to stop now. This request is way out of line and is frankly, quite creepy. Do they want to piggyback off your wedding to throw a fantastic party for a teen? Your wedding is your wedding and you should stick to your plan. Don't accept any funds from them as strings will undoubtedly be attached. Seriously, consider eloping. I don't trust his parents to not try to spin your wedding into her fantasy wedding. My wife and I have been together for 15 years. Together we have a teen daughter, Amy, and she has a nearly adult daughter, Lisa. Lisa's very girly, just like my wife. She also looks like my wife a lot and they're both very beautiful. My wife believes that girls must wear girly clothes, dresses, skirts, and other things like this. However, the problem is that Amy doesn't have much of a girly face and doesn't look good in girly clothes. A few weeks ago, we took some pictures of both girls and my wife put Lisa's pictures in the living room. However, she insisted that we should put Amy's pictures in her bedroom because there's no more space in the living room. She didn't exactly say that she thought Amy was ugly, but both Amy and I knew that this was basically what she meant, and Amy had tears in her eyes. I was so mad, so I decided to do something. I got a hairdresser appointment for Amy and told her she can do whatever she wants. She cut her hair short and colored it. Then we got 2 more piercings on her ears and we went shopping and bought many clothes for her. This time, instead of choosing dresses, she decided to buy boy clothes. She looked amazing in them and was very happy. This is where I might be the idiot. We can't afford to buy that many clothes when she doesn't need them. I am the breadwinner and my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She's been saving money for a vacation and looking forward to it because she doesn't get to go on vacations much. I have access to my wife's account and I use her vacation money to pay for everything. When we returned home, my wife was horrified because I didn't inform her about changing my wife's appearance. She asked me where I got the money to buy those and I told her the truth. She just burst out crying, calling me an idiot because she didn't get to have fun for years and I stopped her from going on a vacation that she was looking forward to. She thinks I'm the idiot and is giving me the silent treatment. Am I the idiot? Wow, you both suck hard here for different reasons. Your wife, obviously, for making your poor daughter feel bad about herself, But you, sir, don't get a free pass to steal your wife's savings, especially since it sounds like a vacation is a rare thing for her. Two wrongs don't make a right. This warranted a serious private discussion with your wife and a plan for better treatment of your youngest, not theft. You really are as dense as heck. A haircut and some hair dye were more than enough, but going on an expensive shopping spree when you absolutely cannot afford it with your wife's vacation money is an absolute idiot move. A discussion between you and your wife would have clarified the situation about the photos, but what you did was extremely immature and reckless. I hope she divorces you and takes half of your crap, since you so proudly claim you're the breadwinner. I vote you are the idiot for this. Amy doesn't have much of a girly face and doesn't look good in girly clothes. And also this, I have access to my wife's account and I used her vacation money to pay for everything without discussing it with her. And you are the idiot to your daughter for this. She insisted that we should put Amy's pictures in her bedroom because there was no more space in the living room. Dude, you let your wife do that. You failed to stand up for your daughter. I feel sorry for Amy. I disagree. OP's not the idiot. I have no problem with you raiding your vacation fund. Your wife can be upset that you dipped into the vacation fund, but she's been on vacation for years because she doesn't work. Two teenage children who spend much of their time in school with their friends and are involved in teenage activities don't need intensive parental care. No diaper change, no bottle feedings, no middle-of-the-night breastfeeding. She essentially lives the life of a retired person. Maybe if she had a job, she wouldn't have the time to focus so intently on your daughter's looks and fashion choices. I took my 3 kids to the movies with my husband. When we arrived, my oldest, a teen, said he wanted to watch a different movie than the rest of the family. I said that was fine and that we could meet him at the ice cream place across the street. His choice would start and end later. We started to split up and then he said I forgot to give him money for a ticket. I asked him why would I give him money for a ticket. He said he needed the money to buy his ticket. I said he could use his own money. He said that wasn't fair because I would buy a ticket for him before. I said I was gonna buy tickets for the whole family for a family outing. If he's doing his own thing, he needs to pay for it. He said he didn't want to pay and would just watch the same movie as the rest of us. He was grumpy afterward and my husband said I was petty. I don't think it's petty. I think it's a life lesson. People are more than piggy banks. So am I the idiot? Edit. We pay the kids for good grades. School is basically a job, so they should get compensated. Everyone's the idiot here. He should have mentioned that he wanted to see a different movie before you got to the theater. You should have told him you would only pay for the one movie from the jump, not wait to rub it in his face. Because let's be honest, you knew he would ask for money. So why didn't you tell him he'd be responsible for a ticket when he said he wanted to see a different movie? Because she wanted to teach him a life lesson. I'm missing the lesson, but maybe she can elaborate. You are the idiot, OP. It seems like you took him wanting to watch a different movie personally. My mother used to do this to my siblings and me. Forcing your kid to spend time with you under the threat of punishment will not work out the way you want it to. Trust me. Someone offers you a free ticket to go and see something, drives you to it, and you expect them to give you the money anyway to see something completely different without them. And they're the idiot for not wanting to pay for that? And you're also getting ice cream afterward and a ride back home. The level of entitlement that comment betrays is legendary, bordering on mythical. Agree. Pure entitlement to think you can ditch your family and still have it paid for. OP, you're not the idiot. This was perfectly handled. Actually, movies are a treat. Your offer was to treat the family to a specific movie together. He declined and preferred something else. You politely accepted, but you shut down his assumption that you'd bankroll it. You politely left him the option to pay for it himself. There's a difference between inviting someone to an outing and offering to pay and being expected to give them the money so they can go and do something else. I, a nearly adult female, am a rising senior at my high school. I'm getting ready for college application season in a couple of months, and have selected several schools, most of which are state schools. I have a spreadsheet with information on them, including tuition and living costs for students there. I have functions on the sheet that show how well I'd be able to afford it using my college savings account that my parents have and my own general savings. My parents, 40 female and 41 male, recently welcomed my baby brother, toddler. I was an only child before. I was talking to my mom about college and showed her my spreadsheet. Then she told me that I needed to adjust it for half of the college savings as they were planning to give my brother half of his college savings. I was pretty shocked by this, since they have 16 plus years to save up for his college, if that's something he'll even want to do. I ran the numbers with half the savings, and it's not looking good. I want to graduate with as little debt as possible, and taking away half is pretty damaging to that. I tried talking to both of my parents about it, but they wouldn't budge. My dad said it's their money, so it's up to them how they get to spend it, and I'm not entitled to it, which I understand. They said they hope to retire early, so they have more time with my brother. Funding another college fund would push back their retirement. He also said I should just save more money and not waste it. He's upset I bought myself a Switch with my paycheck last month. I usually put most of my paycheck into my savings. He said I'm a smart girl, and they can help me figure it out. I still don't think it's fair to lose a good amount of my college fund, 15 months away from starting, to someone who won't use it for over 15 years. Am I the idiot for not wanting to split the fund with my brother? I'd say not the idiot. If they started your college fund when you were a baby, then they have the same amount of time to do it for him. If they don't want to keep putting money away for another 18 years, they should have thought about that before having another kid. Can't agree with this enough. OP's parents are the one who decided to have another kid, knowing when they wanted to retire and what their original plan was. There are better avenues than removing what they told OP but be OP's resource for college. This is the issue. They led her to believe this was her money, and she planned accordingly, only to have them pull the rug out from under her at the last minute, when there was no time for her to plan differently. I sense a golden child was born a year and a half ago. It sucks that OP's parents didn't tell her sooner, like when they were pregnant. Had she known she could have pursued some scholarships in her junior year? It's not too late, but it's easier to start racking up community service hours or whatever, if you know soon. Golden child? You mean the boy they always wanted? It's a real idiot move on their part to suddenly take away the funding they had promised you all along. You made plans based on this promise. Tell them you found a solution and you plan to open an OnlyFans account to fund your college. It might get them to reconsider. Savage. OP, sadly, your parents are right in this. It is their money. They get to do whatever they want with it. That's the truth. And saying you should have saved more is such a BS older person thing. College is expensive, and the cost of living is easily triple to quadruple what your parents paid. The reality is, you probably have to take some loans. Apply for scholarships and keep applying while in school. My brother landed a full scholarship for his last year. I was able to graduate early by taking a few extra classes and saved a fair amount, but it's also okay to be sad and hurt by this. Your parents didn't set this up well. I got married last weekend, the morning of. Everything was going great until my sister arrived. She was a bridesmaid. My toddler niece was with her and wearing pajamas. I didn't think of it initially, as it was still morning, and I figured they were both changing. My sister got into her dress and then tried to put my niece into hers. Niece was not having it and threw a huge tantrum. She had worn this dress before. The tags were cut off. It wasn't a fancy dress by any means. My sister said she had bought it from Carter's. Eventually, my sister said it wasn't worthy and she didn't have to wear the dress. I asked what the plan was. She said she'll just wear her pajamas. They weren't clean either and were smeared with my niece's breakfast from the morning. My niece was the flower girl. I said from the start, I didn't care what she wore, as long as it matched the color scheme, which this didn't. She could either wear a dress or polo and khakis, anything semi-formal. I get dressing kids in fancy clothes as a chore, so I tried to make it easy, but I felt this was a step too far. I asked my sister if she could go buy something else, as we were near Target and Old Navy. My sister said it wasn't a big deal. I said it was to me. We went back and forth until it became clear my niece couldn't come to the wedding, even if she wasn't a flower girl in pajamas. Finally, my sister got my niece dressed. Niece was kicking and screaming and threw a whole tantrum. She was calmed down before we walked down the aisle, but my sister was visibly upset. Later on, my sister made it clear. She thought I was a bridezilla and I should have just let it go. Am I an idiot? Not the idiot. I understand that kids at that age are unpredictable and will have tantrums over something as little as a spoon. Still, you already gave your niece a relaxed enough dress code that your sister would have had options if the dress didn't work out. There's a fine line between being accommodating and letting someone run roughshod. You did the right thing. Since the kid was part of the wedding party, dirty PJs are just not okay. Niece and sister need to learn how to function in the world. We wear nice clothes to weddings. Honestly, your sister sounds like a lazy parent.